So I've done a lot of talks on preparing for emergency crises, and much of this preparation involves stocking up on food and water and preparing all of these things, these resources that you can store in your home in case the power goes down, or in case there's a major water contamination problem, or the supply gets shut down. But in addition to this, we also have to consider the possibility of needing to leave the house or leave the apartment or wherever you live in, even leaving our city, to find a safer place to bug out and survive. So this requires a different kind of preparation. This requires more preparation outside of the home because you can't take everything with you, unfortunately. You need to have things that you can take with you in your bug out bag, and you need to have things that are ready for you out there somewhere. And this often happens because of weather catastrophes. Certain things like droughts that could happen in drier parts of the country. Then there's the opposite of that, floods. And then there are tsunamis, which are a really big threat to the Pacific Northwest and the Atlantic Northeast and other parts that are near the Ring of Fire and close to the coastline, close to the water, or the ocean to be more specific. So these tsunamis that follow earthquakes. Or sometimes it's a military problem, like in some cases a certain kind of civil war or something like that, or a meltdown, a chemical catastrophe. And even that sometimes happens in certain places, right? So most people are just waiting for the government to show up and save them, basically. Most people don't have much of a plan for this. And but at the same time, we all know what that what that leads to, what they can give us. It's peanuts, pennies. Just look at the EI here in Canada, right? EI is just half of your month's earnings. So here's a quick story to show you why this is important, this kind of preparedness. Just in, I think it was Jackson, Missouri, not too long ago. I don't know when this happened exactly, but they had a water problem, and oh my God, their water supply was like mud. It was running dirty. You could see it. It wasn't just tested and dirty. It was just visibly like dirt, mud. It was terrible, and that sort of thing can happen anywhere at any time, basically. Now, so I know of somebody whose friend worked at as an executive for a local government in a place where water is hard to come by. And even though it's a suburb of a huge city, they handle their own water utilities like electricity. And they handle their own utilities like electricity and water. And during his first emergency planning meeting, someone asked the head of the water plant how much they'd have in the towers if the system got hacked or broken down. This guy's friend figured that the manager would say something like, well, maybe about a week supply, or a few weeks, or at least a few days of backup water. But instead, this owner admitted that they would only have about half a day's worth of water supply for the entire city. So that's exactly why you've got to know how to handle your own evacuation. So you may have a personal crisis, and so having storage units throughout, all around, right? These bug out locations, or personal self-storage, which is usually in the form of paid storage. You get these, you can buy and rent these boxes, not really boxes, but they're like containers in all sorts of sizes, very small ones that are like made out of wood, and up to bigger ones like the shipping containers, right, at these big storage facilities. So you can go there, and I mean, you can put all your stuff there. You can just store it for supplies. And in some cases, I mean, if you have your own shipping container, you got it in some remote bug out location, then you can live in that. And if you're in an earthquake zone, you already have a place that's low, you need to find high ground. So your bug out location should be higher up, right? On the highest hills. So it could be somewhere nearby, like walking distance is good. Or driving distance might be better just because you need a lot of distance from the ocean for earthquakes. And sometimes you need to get out of town. This means, of course, as I said, you can't have all your supplies at home. If you're in America, you can get your own guns, your own ammunition, and your food storage and your water storage. And you can grab them and go, put them in your truck. But so a lot of people have trucks for this purpose. Another thing that you need are caches, and that includes these storage units, as I said. So it's another word for it. And of course, you want to have lots of money stored. You need emergency money. And when problems go down, and it's in the worst case, the money value is the problem. Banks can go down. The economy can crash in certain ways. There could be a recession or maybe even a depression. The dollar goes down. Now you need to start trading and bartering, creating transactions with people under the table in cash, and not even paper cash, but with tangible, intrinsically valuable goods, particularly metals, precious metals, gold and silver. So you want something really strong with intrinsic value. Gold, silver are the top choices. Even platinum is good too. And platinum is great for smaller denominations, buying smaller things. Same with silver. It's great having silver coins of, 1/3 and 3/4 of an ounce. You can buy a lot with that. Lots of little things. You can buy medium-sized things. You can use it as change. And then you can buy bigger things, bigger items and goods with the same weight in gold. So don't just keep it all in bars, because that's not practical. Coins are super useful, and you can get a coin pouch and fit tons of these. And you can use this on a daily basis. So you can store these in your caches, because you can get pretty far bribing people. And you can get far bribing yourself out of legal situations too, with corrupt policemen. More particularly in places like Mexico and internationally, but bribing is very useful. So you need cash. It tremendously helps make things a lot easier. And actually, you can get some of this gold and silver from a company called Advantage Gold and Gold Protects. The Gold Protects is a gold sourcing, or a gold checker, essentially. It checks for purity and authenticity. Advantage Gold is an American company. I don't think they ship outside of America though, so that's just a tip for Americans. And I'm not sponsored by anyone or anything. The next thing is that you have to plan your routes. This is extremely important as well. But maybe you've moved to a city, maybe you don't know the area, but you really need to. If you don't, definitely get to know it. People who've been living in a place for a while, they know all the different detours and alternative routes when traffic is bad, to avoid bad traffic, or scenic routes that look nice. So you should have these memorized so you can plan them ahead of time, because you're not guaranteed to be able to go down the same highway that you usually do, right? Many people are going to go down the main highway or the main roads. It's going to get jammed in a crisis, of course. Think about it. Everyone needs to get out. Everyone's going to take the highway. So if you have to evacuate, you have to think about what happens in these situations. And consider alternative means too. If you can't take a car, if you want to be lighter, you can use a motorcycle. Sometimes a bicycle is helpful. Consider whether or not Uber or something like that, or Lyft or taxis, would even make sense in this situation. Are they going to be usable in these different situations? If the airport's down and you were going to charter a plane, you need to know where else you can get out, and other routes you need as well, because planes can be down too in certain occasions. So we need lots of multiple ways, rather than just hopping on a major highway and assuming it's going to be fine. And the next thing is building relationships early on and keeping these people as both friends and resources as well for the future crises. You can set up an agreement with somebody where somebody becomes they become your chauffeur. They can ensure a ride. And then when you do, you can test them too. You can test this means of transportation. If it involves a boat, like a small boat, and you know the boat captain personally, someone you can trust and build that relationship, then you can test this later on. This is somebody who you can even put on a certain kind of payroll, and somebody that you can call at 3 in the morning and get a ride when you need to, and you can do that sometime. You can call them up and make sure that these alternatives are working, and on any weekend, right? See if they answer, see if they show up. So you've got to test everything, whether it's a taxi or local transportation. It takes a tremendous amount of planning ahead and performing dry runs and things like that while thinking about other scenarios. If you're going to use a plane, go to the local airport and meet the guys who do charters. Find the fishermen and the boat captains and taxis, and check out the train and bus stations to know what those processes look like. Okay, that's all for now.